Welcome, everyone, to this edition of Talented Universe on this 11th day of December in 2025. We are rolling. Liz, how are you doing today?
I am doing spectacular.
And we have got a special guest today, Alex Kravitz. Alex, how are you doing on this fabulous day?
I am doing great. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Cut right to the chase. We got you on because of your vertical work. However, we will talk about a few other things that you have done.
Awesome.
But how many verticals have you done and how many are released so far?
25. And most of them have been released already, I think, at this point. But no, actually, well, maybe most of them haven't, now that I think about it. Yeah, I didn't check how many are released. At least 10 of them are released. And there's next week at this time, the 18th, and one I'm in on Drama Box is going to be released, which is Christmas with a Country Bad Boy.
Ooh!
I am a paparazzi in that. And the great Nicole Maddox is the lead. She is a country singer whom her evil dad manager, and the record label want to manipulate into having a fake relationship with country music's bad boy, played by Armand Procacci. And I'm a paparazzi who's trying to get them to have cool reactions that I can snap with.
That you can snap and make some money, huh?
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, hey, you have to make a living somehow, right?
Mm-hmm. And naturally, I mean, it wouldn't be too much of a spoiler, I think, to say that, they don't want to be in this fake relationship. But on the other hand, then maybe they develop chemistry. But then, of course, they don't want. That's not good. You're not supposed to really have the relationship, because then we can't control you. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It makes life so much fun, doesn't it? Just having a good time like that. Now, I'm going to get rid of my other question I usually ask the guests. After you did your first vertical, you saw what it was all about, you came home, talked to your friends or your family, and told them that you were in a vertical drama, and they gave you a funny look, didn't know what the heck you were talking about. How did you explain it to them? Or even most have said they're still explaining it to people. So
exactly. So they are very dramatic scenarios, so that's kind of cool, actually, to see. I see it as similar to the silent movie era. Obviously, this is not silent. There's sound and there's color and all that, and you're watching them on your phone in 2025 and going into 2026. So it's definitely the future, but at the same time, it is a little bit like the 1920s in the sense of it being like a Wild West and them having some really bizarre scenarios. And later on, when Hitchcock was making movies, he said audiences are not like in the silent movie. They want a sophisticated villain. They don't want a villain who kicks the dog, right? Mm-hmm. But in these verticals, it's like, yeah, the villain will kick the dog. I mean, It's funny that you have here what I'm known for, which is From Janitor to Mrs. Billionaire, and also Church of Phil, which is an indie horror feature where I was nominated for Best Supporting Actor at the See Me Film Fest, where we won Best Comedy there, and we also won Best Ensemble at the Happy Fright Film Festival and the Central Coast International Film Festival. So since we've won Best Ensemble there, and I'm the third billed actor in that movie, that means I'm an award-winning actor, even if it's not an individual award. But actually, Best Ensemble is a more fun award to win, really, because it means that everyone in the cast is getting honored there. Anyway, but then you also have From Janitor to Mrs. Billionaire as my first credit there. That is, I was just a bodyguard in that one, and the scene I was in, literally, they were like kicking and beating up a pregnant woman. This one has been released, and their justification for it was that she was just a janitor who got pregnant, they believe, by some hobo off the street, and it would reflect poorly on the company if she continued to remain employed there. I think it would reflect more poorly that they were beating up a pregnant woman. But
you would think, yeah.
You would think, but that's not how their logic works. And of course, then the hero, who is secretly a billionaire or maybe they knew he was a billionaire, but they didn't know that he was the father of the child. So he rescues her from that. It's a little bit dramatic, right? It's not a very sophisticated villainy of the people who are like, we're going to beat up the pregnant woman. But that's how it was kind of in the silent movie era, where it's just very obvious, like morality play type. And that's what a lot of these vertical dramas are. So the plots, it can be pretty fun. Each episode is usually only about like 2 minutes to call it an episode. And then there's like a break, which could be an ad break, or for the first few of them, they don't usually play an ad, but then after a while, it's like, there's an ad.
Then there's an ad,
Ad, or you can pay to go premium, and then you don't have to watch the ads.
Yeah. It's so much fun.
It is fun. A producer did confide in me, although I'm not sure if this is for all of the apps or how accurate this was, but I was like, I am curious, how do you make the revenue from this? Like, what's the breakdown? And he said that it is 70% ad revenue. So most people are not actually paying this premium subscription. They are willing to sit through the ads to keep watching it. And but then that implies 30% from subscription. So enough people get annoyed with the ad breaks and they just want to watch as many as they want, that they do sign up for the subscriptions. Then you can tune into all of the very dramatic ones with titles like From Janitor to Mrs. Billionaire, titles like Christmas with a Country Bad Boy. And one that I was in on Real Short is called Call Sign Legacy. I actually had several lines in that one, and I was Techie One, and I posted a reel to social media with my clips from that one. And the title is a little bit, that one isn't quite as obvious in the title. What does Call Sign Legacy mean? But it's sort of like a Top Gun type story, except that the hero is seeking redemption because his dad, I believe, was falsely accused of being a communist spy. Yeah. And so now he, years later, is a Navy pilot, and he's trying to redeem his family's name and save the world. But of course, the tech bros have taken over the military, and they don't believe in the need for human can-do attitude anymore. So he has to prove them wrong. That's the idea.
There you go. Yeah, I've seen part of that so far, so I haven't seen the whole thing. But I'm going to go with a question in the chat room. This is about one of your Jack and Lou, a gangster love story, is unusual. Beginning as a student project and having 11 directors. Critics have praised the film. Can you share some of your thoughts about this project?
Oh, sure. So, yeah, that is a USC student film. It has 11 directors because it is a feature film. And so usually with USC, you'd be doing just a short student film. I've done several of those, and this one was a really long one. I was just a station police officer in that, but I also was there on another day when they were filming at the Biltmore Hotel. And actually, interestingly, a lot of these verticals film at the Biltmore Hotel too, which is a famous historic hotel in LA. It's actually, I think, where they held the first Academy Awards ceremony. But I was also a station police officer, so we went to the LAPD museum, and they actually do like filming there because they have like historical things, since it's set in an older time period, and it was pretty cool. Sorry, what was the question? I didn't answer it, did I?
Oh, well, no, you did. Why there was 11 directors?
Why there were 11 directors is because they did it as a project where it's like, tons of USC students were involved in it, but it is overall a feature film. I haven't actually seen it seen it. I think they had a screening of it, but I missed that.
You missed that. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go ahead to Liz with some of her questions that she has.
Okay, first of all, I wanted to say, since you brought up Call Sign Legacy, it is actually a really, really good Real Short. I got to say that, not trying to, advertise for Real Short, but your character was an absolute ass, and I loved it. Yeah, you nailed that role. Loved it. But let's go back all the way to the beginning. What influenced you, first of all, for you wanting to specialize in interdisciplinary studies? This is what gets me, because I have some leading questions to this.
Okay, yes. So I went to UC Berkeley, and during orientation, they mentioned interdisciplinary studies as a possibility. And that was like, I knew immediately. I'm like, only just turned 18 and just going to the orientation. I was like, I want to do interdisciplinary studies, because already I was like, I don't want to be pigeonholed as doing just one thing. Yeah. And that's, should I study, should I get a theater degree, for instance? It's almost like a cliche to have a theater degree. And then what are you going to do with a theater degree? Well, theater, obviously, or acting or whatever, right? But So with interdisciplinary studies, it also buys you some time of like, you can figure out and you can take courses in a bunch of different disciplines, because when you decide to lock into a major, although you do still have 2 years before you have to decide it, but like then once you do, it's like you have to take a certain number of courses that are requirements to meet that major. Right. For interdisciplinary studies, you do as well, but they are courses that are going to help you understand analyzing systemic features of lots of stuff. So you can still use those courses to apply to your research in whatever area you want. And with interdisciplinary studies, then I was able to, as long as you have a faculty advisor, mine was Renate Holub. She's a German professor in the interdisciplinary studies department, and she focused on Gramsci, the philosopher, was her area of focus primarily. But she was my advisor, and then I just had to say, I'm using these courses to meet the requirement for the major, and like, how are you going to incorporate them into your thesis to explain it? So my thesis, if you haven't fallen asleep yet, is called Pluralizing Diplomacy: How Humans Can Construct Cosmopolitan Narratives for Educational Engagement with One Another. So the idea is that the international relations framework may still have some practical applications, certainly. I'm not saying that you need to completely do away with it, but according to, say, Irving Goffman, a sociologist who wrote Presentation of the Self in Everyday Life. He was studying the British civil service when he did this, and he's analyzing real people. He did this in like the 1950s, so this was quite novel at the time to say, hey, real people working these government jobs are essentially, they're like actors performing roles, because they're saying something to the public. There's a backstage where they actually talk about themselves, right, or talk among themselves, and they may even present as opponents to the public, but sometimes they're colleagues backstage, right? And then they have their own. So it's basically saying like you're always performing yourself. It can be applied outward, not just from people working in the civil service, but onward. And if he starts with that, and you go decades later, you have Judith Butler saying even the concept of gender itself is performed. Right. So now when people say gender is a construct, it's just like commonplace all over the internet. But obviously at one point in time, no one had ever said that. So anyway, these ideas, then I put into the concept of, so what about diplomacy? Because it's very important that we don't have more world wars and we don't have lots of killing and hurting people. We can minimize that as much as we can. But we have to recognize that the nation states are full of, they're not full of diplomats, but rather they present their diplomats as the official representatives of their nation, right? And they are now saying the line that they are told to say. And they don't even always necessarily agree with it. Most of these diplomats, they've taken all these analytical courses in college, and they're often like more progressive than their governments are that they're representing. But the point is they have to present the particular line that the regime wants them to say of any nation state. And if you look at the UN system, where we recognize the sovereignty of all of these nation states, right? And these are their representatives. But how are the representatives chosen, right? A lot of them are not chosen even from countries that have a representative democracy. And as we've seen in the United States, even when you have a representative democracy, you easily could wind up with a regime, a leadership that actively wants to project some position out into the world, as the Trump regime has in the first term and especially in the second term, that the United States will bully other countries into doing what we want, right? But that's not what all Americans necessarily want to happen. That's not. So the concept of pluralizing diplomacy is then that anyone could be a cosmopolitan diplomat. All you have to do is really just think of yourself that way. So cosmopolitanism would be an idea, even going back to ancient Greece, that you should think of the world as your city, a global citizen. And if there's no governmental body that is issuing you the diploma to make you a diplomat, it's really just if you think of yourself that way as a global citizen. And I think lots of people do it already, was my argument. A lot of people in the arts, in social media, when you're presenting yourself out there and you're telling a story, you're just making it a part of a narrative, cosmopolitan
Right.
narrative, so
That's
that
kind
way.
of what I wanted to bring up with you. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Go
that's
ahead.
it's kind of what I wanted to bring up as far as, okay, you've done all this and you did a wonderful job just explaining it just now. But now going into the arts, um, that whole structure that you've taken from it, you put now into film work, and you of course you've used it as a foundation. Do
Mhm.
you think that it's more symbolic and, as you just said, a narrative element? Do you think that fosters more of an interaction to shed more light on things like hemophobia, racism, misogyny, things like that? Do you
Yeah.
think you take all of those
Homophobia,
things?
right?
Yeah, homophobia.
Okay, I thought you said hemophilia, which
No,
is
homophobia.
not
No,
not being able to blood
no,
clot, which is
yeah,
also
no.
an issue that people need to be aware of that too. But I mean, so yeah, you can use this to do health education as well, for instance. And what that was those were some of the examples that I looked at actually, but they were about like HIV prevention awareness education through like arts and culture. Um,
Okay, so you took it down the health education route, not so much the blending of people in and to get over that.
Well, it's both. As you might see, I don't want to be like pigeonholed into just one thing,
Right.
right? That's kind of the
Yeah.
whole idea there. So exactly, it's like both of those go together. I mean, if anything, awareness about HIV prevention is also part of combating homophobia and sexism and
Exactly.
racism narratives, because they're the ones that kind of like try to keep it all hush hush and just don't talk about it, and like better not to talk about it, and then it continues to be a huge problem. So yeah, I think that all of these narratives where you just see the human experience, and then that we're more similar than we are different in many ways, or even if you've never had that experience, you can now relate to it thanks to the story. And this can be within your own country, let alone foreign countries.
Right.
So that there's plenty of stories to tell even within the United States here. And the idea that the one official narrative of the regime is like that's the story of what we the people want, it's not true, because it's the collective of what all of us want. And so each person has their own individual story. Everyone is the hero of their own story. Everyone's the main character of their own story. And
Exactly,
there you
exactly.
go.
I love the way you just put that. And kind of tying in with this, you had just said you don't want to be pigeonholed. And you, my friend, definitely have not pigeonholed yourself. I swear to God, you are so artsy with many different. I couldn't, I was like looking at this list. I mean, you have done, of course, acting, you've done
Mhm.
writing, composing, singing, directing, and a ton more. How do you balance all of that within yourself? I mean, that's a lot of stuff.
That's a great question. I'll let you know when I have the answer to that one.
Yeah.
I don't balance it at all. It's imbalanced basically. It's whatever. So I do go toward whatever the work is that I would love to be able to go toward the work just that I feel in my heart at that point in time, which is why last year I didn't do for like an entire year I didn't really do any acting. Basically from the spring of last year through the spring of this year I actually didn't do any acting, and then in the spring of this year I signed up with Central Casting, so I've done background acting,
Okay.
and then in July I started doing vertical dramas. So it's amazing that in just the second half of the year I've already done these like 25 vertical dramas. I'm going to be on another one tomorrow. So but I open myself to that possibility, and also because you get paid to do it. It's like work
That
that I'm
always
paid to do.
helps.
Pay the bills. Yeah.
Yeah, if you could only narrow down to one thing,
Mhm.
one love of all that, what would you
Mm.
choose?
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, in a way, you are always acting no matter what. Vittorio De Sica, who's the director of Bicycle Thieves, a very famous
Hmm.
film, said that everyone plays one great role in their lives themselves. So in a sense, it's like you don't have to choose acting. If that's you can be a professional actor and get paid to do it, but you don't have to say the one thing I would do is acting. Is like because everyone's always acting and performing themselves anyway. So you will do that no matter what else you choose. I'm not trying to force everyone to think of
Yeah.
themselves as an actor. I'm just saying, like, in a sense, they are all performing. That we are all performing ourselves. So if I could choose one other thing, then it's like it would be the writing. But this could be writing of whether it's like a script or it's music. I mean, they're kind of like the script is just a language-based. Well, music can be language-based, but you see what I'm saying? Like you can compose with music, you can compose with writing. Yeah. That's what I want to express myself, right? But so far, I haven't really made money doing that. I intend to make money doing that, but I haven't really made money doing that. So like one thing, as you talk about the balance within myself, the question is, earlier this year, before I'd signed up to the background acting from Central Casting, but you only get work whenever they text you. Basically, you don't know when you're going to get work. So I still had lots of other time, and I was working on some screenplays. Then I actually decided to go full forward with the vertical drama acting, because at first titles like From Janitor to Mrs. Billionaire just made me think, what is this? I don't know. I don't understand it. And it's listed on Actors Access as like vertical drama series. I'm like, what does that mean? I don't even understand what it is. So I wasn't even applying to them. Or if I would apply like only to the lead roles and stuff, because I'm like, I've done other acting. I should only apply to the lead. And I didn't even get like auditions for those because I didn't have any experience in that space. So it's like, they're not going to want to see you with that because they think you're not, you might think they're not serious because you don't know what it is, but they think you're not serious because you don't have any experience with them. So it's better to get started with like, be willing to do background and such. And then I just wound up so busy. Now I've done so many of them over the past few months that I really haven't done any writing. But I've also still continued to focus on putting my social media videos out there, and some of them have gotten some, like a lot of views. So that's good. Continue to build a profile.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. You know, and you're coming in from a world now into vertical, as you said, about the last 6 months. It is such a different world because one, it's a much, condensed shoot as far as where the camera is placed. You have to watch your blocking. You have to watch, okay, how close am I standing to the next person? I can't move around. And that has got to be such a absolute, when you've come in from other things doing it, a kind of a mind twist to you when you first get started.
Sure. One of the things in theater is to try to use up as much of the space as possible. Even try to get, if anything, try to get into the vertical aspect of the theater if you can, because most just like black box theater sets don't have any, additional levels to them. But technically, it's like you have the audience's attention for that as well. So like try to like play with the levels there. But that's more of like an obstacle to try to reach. But you're still certainly you can go horizontally whenever you want, though. Like the director might say, okay, rein it in. Let's stay on this part of the stage. But overall, it's like use up the whole stage, right? Horizontally. Then in film, it's like, okay, you don't want to go out of frame, certainly, but it's wide. It's a wide,
it's a wide frame. Yeah, exactly.
The verticals, they are, they're the vertical frames. So it's ridiculous that you can't, you can't be, you have to just be standing right there to do each shot. But, you get it done. I mean, maybe it's in some sense it's easier because you don't have to think about filling out that part. There's a lot of like every time directors are always saying bunch closer together, like, just trying to remind the actors, like you're standing closer to people than you would stand in real life a lot of the times, because you shouldn't have like any social distance space between you, basically, because you want to all fit into the frame. So yeah.
Personal space, never heard of it in the verticals. Doesn't exist. On that one, I'm going to toss you back to Michael because I think we have people in the chat room.
Yeah, we do. And here's one. You may know this person. I'm just going to throw it up, and it's from Jeff Kravitz. Says handsome chap, smart too.
Oh, this guy.
I mean, you might not know who it is, but But I'm really mad. Someone in the chat room took my question that kind of I asked you at the beginning before we went on air. So I'm just going to read Marcia's thing. The creature behind you is roaring at me. Is it a pinata dinosaur or Godzilla or what?
It is a pinata dinosaur. It's a Tyrannosaurus Rex, right? And I need to actually edit and post the video from back on October 26th, where I got this pinata and I was dressed as Beetlejuice with full costume and makeup and everything. And in West Hollywood Park, we had the Democracy Action Network Halloween Picnic for Democracy. So it was a little bit of an educational day and a fundraiser of things. The Democracy Action Network was part of the Indivisible Network, and earlier in that month, we marched at the No Kings Day, and there were so many people there, and I didn't even post any video of that either. I've just been so busy with wanting to get to at some point editing it. But yeah, this was my idea that I was like, I'm gonna get a piñata. I didn't know which piñata I was gonna get. I was thinking like maybe I'll get a Donald Trump piñata. Of course, they didn't have a Donald Trump piñata. But then I saw this and I was like, oh, well, he's a tyrant king. That's the Tyrannosaurus Rex. So let's do that. And and I had some other things that, when I post the video, you follow me on Instagram or TikTok, Alex Kravitz 1.
Following right along the bottom on our
right on the bottom, it's going there.
Or on YouTube, it's Kravitz Studios. Either way, just follow me on all of them, but you follow me there. When I post it, I'll try to get to that at some point before the end of the year. It's been a couple months now. You'll see there were also some additional metaphors here that I got some sunglasses and put cardboard over them, and I wrote checks and balances on it. So when the people were swinging at the piñata, they were blinded by the checks and balances, but eventually they did take down the tyrant king. So, and then they got candy. It was all that's made in Mexico, and it was all Mexican candy too. So,
oh wow,
that was a fun event, symbolic, and then I've just kept the head as because it's cool. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd seen your Beetlejuice costume on your things.
Yes, I did some
but
other things.
But I had not seen that, so I guess you haven't posted it yet.
Yeah.
That explains that.
It's been months now, and I really should do that.
But you've been kind of busy.
I've been very busy.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. So I mean, I can totally understand that. So I guess you were kind of saying, if I got what you were trying to say, is time gets away from you sometimes with all the things you have to do.
Sure, as it does from all of us, I'm sure. I'm not saying that what I do is more important than what actual medical professionals do, for instance.
Well, or T-Rexes, I mean. Oh.
Yeah, their time was up a long time ago, and yet some of them are back. So
yes,
it was a good way for people to blow off steam, hitting it. It was a broomstick from like Family Dollar or something, but the people really went to they bent the stick all out of shape. I had to buy a new one buy a new broom to take back home here. I rent a room in a house right now, so I just rent the room, and like the other people in the house also rent the rooms directly from the landlord. So when I say, I mentioned in a previous video that I have been able to pay my rent from acting for a few months now. And I think for December, I'm going to meet it as well. So it's been a few months that definitely means I'm a professional actor. I was able to pay my rent from it. Flip side being that I'm not paying a super large rent. Might still be larger than the rent of like an apartment in a smaller city, but I've also lived in a lot of other places. I've lived in Sacramento and I've lived in Riverside.
Oh.
I used to work as a government analyst. So I worked in Sacramento, and then I worked in Riverside for the California State Teachers Retirement System. And the apartment rents there are still expensive. It's expensive everywhere. So anyway, but by renting a room in a house, it's a little bit.
Trust me, there is still.
You're in Sacramento, yeah.
Yep.
And I'm like, this isn't even LA. Why is the rent so? But then it's if you were trying to rent the same type of thing in LA, it would just be even more expensive. That's all. So anyway, renting a room here has been sustaining me for now. And as far as these vertical dramas, they're all non-union for now anyway. And there's a talk of allowing SAG members to work in that's the Screen Actors Guild, to work in vertical dramas. I think probably in 2026 that agreement will be there, so people don't have to feel like they're missing out on all this work in the vertical drama space. The flip side being, as I said, like I've been able to pay the rent from this, which is nice. But each day of work is still not very much money compared to like if you actually book the union jobs, they are much higher pay. So there's still a huge benefit to getting the union jobs. The reason that people say, oh, then the non-union things, of course, the non-union things are cheaper to make, and it relates to the crew as well, and all of the costs of everything.
Everything, yeah.
It's all cheaper to make, but the flip side being, it's like, obviously the ones that are more expensive to make are because they're paying everybody more, and knowing that the work is not necessarily going to be fully steady or long term, that it's going to be intermittent, and these might be your most productive years that you're doing this, and then later on you might not get work, so you have to kind of make up for that now. That's the whole idea behind it. So I don't have any problem with the union work. If anything, I believe I still need to look into this detail, but someone on the set of a vertical drama was talking with me, and I realized that a short that I was in, it was actually filmed a year and a half ago. It was basically the last acting thing I did before earlier this year in 2025 in the spring that I came back and did background acting. But I was in this professional short. They paid me money, and it was under what's called the short project agreement. And I think that actually does qualify me to join SAG. That's what this person was telling me. And then I was looking it up. I was like, oh, wow, I actually didn't. And this time I was like, I didn't realize, because this year and a half I've been thinking, man, how am I even going to get like an audition for something where I could join SAG? I was like, I guess I have to do these non-union things. It's ironic that it means if I had just joined right then, like I probably wouldn't have done any of this stuff. So, but then the flip side is then I wouldn't have met all these people. I wouldn't have had these experiences. I wouldn't have had those clips. You wouldn't have been asking to interview me probably. Well, unless
we might have. It just all depends.
Maybe I would have already become like super famous from getting, cast in some other thing. But like, I don't have any agent or manager or anything right now. But in 2026, I'll probably go for that type of thing. In 2026, I think at some point I will be activating that SAG membership if I can. Now I'm like, did I understand it correctly or did I not? Because basically I've also been in projects that were under the ultra low budget agreement, ULB. You're not eligible to join SAG from doing that, but SAG actors can choose to work on it if they want. So that's why they do the ultra low budget agreement. Or when you're in a student film, they can have SAG actors in that, but new actors don't get SAG eligibility by being in them. So I thought that the short I was in was just the same. I thought SPA, short project agreement, was like the same thing as ULB, but I was actually incorrect about that. They're all different. Short project agreement, I should be able to join SAG. So then, and a lot of actors aren't going to want to talk about this, especially in the non-union space in these verticals and such. But to me, it's like 2026 is almost over. Today's actually December, or 2025. I've skipped ahead a year. 2025 is almost over. Today, December 11th. I don't know if you've ever seen information about this, but apparently, according to different researchers of dating life, December 11th is the statistically most breakup day. And most people joining dating apps day. And it makes a lot of sense because like you're near the end of the year. You're maybe past the Thanksgiving holiday, but it's not yet Christmas. And it's just sort of like, you know what? What's your New Year's resolution? Do you want to enter the next year in that relationship that you have? Do you want to start a new one? And they've looked at this across Facebook statuses, across dating profiles, across all sorts of things. And it's like today, December 11th, is the day that a lot of people make that sort of big life decision type thing about their arrangement of their life. And if I'm looking at 2026 and just a couple, literally 2 weeks ago at like 2:30 a.m., I was recording 2 auditions. And I have housemates, as I just said. They don't want me to be recording this at 2:30 a.m. I really should have. That's disrespectful of me. I should have done it at some different time, right? They didn't complain because they know I'm an actor and it's a struggle and all of that. But like, and they're not actors, by the way. So I'm sure they were annoyed that I was doing an audition. Even if it's in my room, it's like still the sound is going to carry.
They can hear it, yeah.
It's 2:30 a.m. I did one audition, and before I did the second audition, I was like talking into my. I just record them all with my phone, and I'm just like talking into my phone. I was thinking of posting this to social media. That I was like, my goal for 2026, I'm gonna get my SAG card. I'm gonna get like at least, because at the very least, if I'm doing these auditions and stuff, I want to be trying for roles that are gonna pay me more money and be in like even bigger projects, where everything is even higher up there. Not that there's a little bit of a grass is always greener on the other side of the fence thing, where of course there are some people who are in SAG who are actually envious of my position right now because they're not getting the work within the SAG, and they would love to be getting this within the vertical space. But on the flip side, it's like I'm saying a goal for 2026. I'm going to do that. I'm going to activate my SAG card at some point. But when I was recording that, I was thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'll do it. Like I'll figure it out. Like somehow I will will myself to do it. Then few days later or whatever, I'm on a set and someone is explaining about the short project agreement, and I realize I already have the ability to do it as far as I understand it. So if I then waffle on that and think, maybe I still shouldn't do it, but just remember your state of mind when it was like 2:30 a.m. and you were recording, an audition, and you're just like promising yourself what you're going to do for the next year. Like, next year, I'm going to reach this goal. I'm yearning for it. I want to achieve it. So I have to be true to that part of myself and just go for it. Even if that means, I might not therefore do as many vertical dramas, or maybe I will, because maybe they'll have the SAG agreement there anyway, where you can still do them. But even if that agreement falls through and I can't do them, and then I have to say goodbye to the vertical drama world temporarily, that'll be okay, because it's part of my goal to achieve this other thing in my career. And you meet a lot of actors who don't necessarily have that as their goal. That's what I was surprised to learn coming to LA, because to me, I thought that everyone who was doing this acting was wanting that would be something that they'd want to do. But a lot of them are perfectly happy to just stay non-union actors. They work in commercials, they do background work. And of course, there is more overall background work for big crowd scenes for non-union. On big union productions, they hire 25 SAG background actors, but then they might need 100, 200, up to 400 or something additional background actors for a big crowd. All the rest of those are non-union actors, because they don't want to have to pay the higher rate, even for the background actors, to be SAG. So there is that. And so I get what people mean when they say, oh, well, if you go union, then there won't be as much work. I'm just not that worried about it, because I'm like, don't you think that you will make the work? Don't you think that you will bring it to you? I'm not trying to insult them or their thought process on that. It's just like, that's my thought process. So I'm going to do it.
Exactly. Liz.
Yeah, kind of getting back into some of the projects and things you have done. But first, before we do that, I saw a clip of you because you'd spoken about some of the stuff you put out. And I cannot watch some of your stuff while I'm drinking anything, because you did this clip and I literally choked on my coffee.
Really?
The clip that you did where you showed your telescope, and the language you used in particular was, I'm doing telescopy things with it. Which leaves me to wonder, okay, what type of telescopy things are we doing?
Well, that's hilarious. Thank you, Liz. I'm glad that tickled you. It's not my telescope. I was on a set. Did you? I don't know if
I
you
could see the
realize.
background. You could tell it was a set.
You could tell
it looked like the background was China, but I don't know if that was accurate.
So I was just on a set, and I saw the telescope, and I just wandered over there and I filmed that. Sometimes it's like good at me having like ADHD or whatever, and those like creative sparks, as compared with the things that I really plan a lot. And I'm like, oh, that thing from October 26th, I still haven't posted, because I'm like, I got to go through and edit it. That I just made it, I posted it. Literally, when I went back to I showed like the other actors, they were like, "Did you just post this?" I was like, "Yeah, I just made that and posted it right here," and that was really funny, yeah. And I'm glad that you liked it. And then I also got a comment of someone saying like, "Okay, Jimmy Stewart in Rear Window." I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
okay,
I was thinking the same thing too with Rear Window."
Jimmy Stewart. But he called me, but he wrote Jimmy Stewart with a D. My name's actually Jimmy Stewart with a T, but that's okay.
So in other words, you were not spying on all of your vertical co-stars.
No, I was not. It might be a real telescope. I mean, I don't know why make a prop telescope. Well, maybe telescopes can get pretty expensive, but it was probably it. On the other hand, making a prop telescope though seems kind of difficult compared to just grab whatever. It was a telescope that was there for some reason.
Yeah.
I filmed it. The other one I just posted a couple days ago, where I'm walking into a classroom and I'm saying like, "Hey class, everyone wants to be cool, but you know what's not cool? Joining an underground resistance to a fascist regime. It's not cool. So don't do that. I'm gonna write. If I write a place on the board, we can meet and talk about it. I'm gonna erase it. So don't do that. Don't follow that." That was actually, I did that one on the same day, but I held off on posting it for a bit longer, because that was another set at the same location. I don't think I was really supposed to go on that set, but I just was like, it was such a realistic school set. I was like, I got to just go in here and film some content.
And everything that you did that on, most definitely.
Yeah.
You have, and like I kind of said this before, you have a real gift for comedic timing. And I wanted to
Thank you.
actually ask you, was it something that you think you were born with a natural ability, or is this something you've worked on?
I don't know. Chicken or the egg type question, right?
Yeah.
How do you know? Was I just born funny? Well, my mom's favorite joke, if I were funny as a kid, she'd go, "Ha ha, you're funny looking."
Oh,
So
I've heard that one before. Yep.
that like it's getting a bit old, Mom. That we've heard that one a lot, but it's still good. It still stings. No.
Your family must be an absolute riot when you guys get together, because it sounds like you
Oh,
naturally
the police
inherited
do
that
get
comedic
called.
gene.
Yeah, that riot. Well, and my parents were divorced. The Jeff, my dad in the comments there, is not married to the one who's my mom. But they're all funny. Yeah. I don't know if you ever heard the Jennifer Coolidge quote, where people are asking, like, Jennifer Coolidge, were you funny even as a kid? She was like, yeah, my parents had me tested.
You have done, leading into this, you have done what I consider a very dark comedy with a lot of actually leading things when you did Church of Phil. And I have to ask you on this because there are so many things of it. And your character was kind of more hanging around on the fringe of the leader, and I
Well,
was
Liz,
seeing,
when did you watch this, Liz?
I'm
Oh,
not telling.
no, she doesn't tell.
I
She
do
doesn't
not
tell.
tell.
No, she
I
does
Because
not
just,
tell.
we don't have like a wide release or anything yet. It's still on the
I
festival
don't,
circuit, but
I
there
know.
was an ability to watch it online briefly for a brief window. So
Mm,
yeah, at some
I
point or
don't
another, maybe you
release.
attended a screening, or maybe you saw it
She's
online.
not
But
going to tell, Alex.
that's
She's
good. That's good.
not
Okay.
going to
I have
tell.
spies everywhere.
All
I have
right.
sources everywhere.
She has
All
good
right.
sources
So sorry.
It's
What
like,
that
was your
you're not
question?
allowed to talk about. So,
yeah, it's like Michael always tells me, well, pull the information off of IMDb. I'm like, why? I go with everything else first and go with IMDb last.
Okay. Okay. I see you.
But no, with that, and like I was saying, it was such, and your character was more right, kind of on the fringe of one of the ones that were kind of pulled into this. But do you see the whole aspect of it with your own background, with what you
Uh-huh.
did in college? Do you kind of see that being how cult leaders generally adapt to? Is something that they start out with, oh, they're not real serious with it, but all of a sudden they're getting all this adoration and everything from people, and they're getting bigger and bigger within their own minds and almost becoming godlike and exuding that to other people. And that is how the cults are formed.
Yeah, so the auteur filmmaker Derwin DeLita, who made Church of Phil, and his like good friend since childhood, Patrick McGrath, who plays Phil of the Church of Phil, they made a short film of Church of Phil like 10 or 11 years ago or something like that. But it was just the first part of the movie. And then when they went to the feature, they recast some of including my role. Lonnie Legend was one for which they auditioned me, and I won it from the audition. What's weird is this means there was someone else who actually played Lonnie Legend in the first
Right.
draft. So I didn't even originate the role technically, but the cult nature and like what it means and all of that, I think that Derwin did a great job with all of that, because it is funny. It's a dark comedy. It's a horror comedy, but it's also like and for those who haven't watched it, which it would probably be most people watching this have not seen it. So that the tagline is, a man creates a cult by accident. So this sort of everyman Phil has having some health problems and gets some pills from his doctor, and he's not supposed to mix them with alcohol, but he goes to this mixer and he does wind up drinking alcohol. And then he goes on this rant that he doesn't even remember the next day. But whatever he was ranting about, how the society, it's all just boxes, we're putting everybody in cages and all of that, right? Which, okay, there's a truth to that, but it's also just something that someone is ranting about when they're drunk, and it's an interaction with their pill medicine, right? But the people who are listening to it are like, wow, this guy is our new leader. This guy's our messiah. Because people always want the guy who tells it like it is, right? He's not even trying to create a cult, and now everybody wants to follow him. And then my character, meanwhile, is an aspiring rapper, and nobody likes me. And so I'm really annoyed that my friend here suddenly is a cult leader. Like, he has tons of fans and he didn't even want this. So,
and you wanted it being
I
the
wanted it.
rapper. And
I wanted it being the rapper. I would love to have a legion of adoring fans, and he doesn't want all this attention. It's like, are you kidding me? So like the person who doesn't even want the attention winds up getting it. But this is sometimes how things wind up happening. So then there's someone who, for whatever reason, they just have some charisma, their natural charisma, and that people like. People follow them, right? And then the other hangers on around them try to, like, my character tries to appropriate, like, maybe I can get something out of that, right? Like, is there some way that, like, I can be helped by that? And that's what tends to happen. If there's that, we shouldn't talk about religion type of thing, but it's like, how can we not talk about religion when I'm in this movie called Church of Phil, and it's about a man who creates a cult by accident? We have to talk about it. And even within the movie, there's a line. It's like, well, look at Christianity. Not that I'm comparing cultism to Christianity. Like, it's like, but you when you wind up having the discussion about it, if you think of like Jesus Christ as a person who was preaching and had a lot of really good points, and then what about the people who are around him who are following him? But then when he's gone, it's like what they do with the story. They take the narrative and they run from there, and they wouldn't have ever gotten that following themselves. So they're all sort of leeching and mooching off of the person who, for whatever reason, is the original person who gets the following, and then they try to just continue it onward and onward.
Oh no, exactly. That's kind of how I felt with it too, and several other things that I've seen or studied in the past kind of have that same feel of you're leeching onto them to get your own adorations that you need, and not actually being a follower of something. One thing I have to say that I found kind of humorous though with the Church of Phil was when he started doing all this stuff and wondering, he actually was thinking about going to one of my favorite places, which was where the Lord of the Rings were filmed.
New Zealand,
Yeah, I thought that was like a really cool kind of twisty tie into it. So,
and the idea of the want of your protagonist, right? What does he want? He wants to go to New Zealand and just live among like where the hobbits are. Not that they're really hobbits, but like that's what he wants. And he's also, it's meaningful that he is a theater maintenance technician, a cinema maintenance technician, so cinema theaters. So he's someone who fixes all the projections and stuff and all of that, and the popcorn and everything that we love when we go to the cinema. And like his dream is just to escape this drudgery of his day-to-day life and go live in beautiful New Zealand. Whereas I'm sure there's someone in New Zealand who's yearning to be in Hollywood or yearning for the fame or whatever, right? But the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, right? So I think that it did a great job of depicting some of the mundane aspects of the day-to-day life, but then having just totally madcap, almost screwball comedy-esque elements that are just outrageous. They're going to shock audiences. I really hope that this gets a wider release. Even if it doesn't get a cinematic release, it's great that I've gotten to see it in the cinema several times at the screenings and the festivals and such. But even if it doesn't get that, at least to go on to like a streaming service or something would be great for people to see. I think it's best in the theater though, going in and not knowing anything about it. That was really cool. Oh, also, I wrote the song "Straight Cash Bumpin'" for the movie.
Yeah, so, in fact, I used that as the tag on when I was posting for this, and I actually wanted to talk to you about that with your music, because you are such a good writer and composer with things.
Thank you.
One thing that I noticed with the music, for me anyway, is there's a lot of times in the mornings, especially, I'm just not motivated to do baloney. And I put on some of your stuff, and it's like, oh my God, I'm actually motivated. I can go ahead and do some of this.
Oh my God, that's so touching. Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah, I make a lot of like pump up songs. Someone said my music is very vibrant, and because we're alive, we should be vibrant. I mean, not that you can't have songs that are not vibrant. I like some melancholy stuff too, and some sadder stuff. But usually, it's like I'm trying to make each song able to live completely on its own. So even in my album United, which I released on the 20th of January, just before Trump was sworn in for his second term. It has a bunch of tracks in it, and like every song is a little different. There are a lot that are sort of like movie themed, but in theory, each song, if you listen to it, has a contained story within it, and it is like it's the whole universe in itself. But then also they're all connected. Actually, every song on the album has a reference to The Wizard of Oz, which is the greatest film of all time. Yeah, you might not notice each reference, but if you go back and think about it, oh, wait a minute, there is a reference there. Wizard of Oz is the greatest film of all time because it has that transition from the drudgery of Kansas into the world of Oz. With all the color, it has all the beautiful music. It has beautiful, great child acting from Judy Garland there. Even if she says her mom was the real Wicked Witch because she had a terrible experience with her mom controlling her with all this. But like a child is the protagonist of this story, and it's a hero's journey, but it's like, and most of the opponent, the Wicked Witch that she faces is a woman. Glinda is a woman. The wizard, he's the man. He's big, powerful man. He doesn't have any actual power. It's all smoke and mirrors.
Exactly.
Right? In a sense, the Wizard of Oz deconstructs all of like the patriarchy. It deconstructs all of history, all of the showmanship of the lies that people tell there. And I love Wicked as well, but the Wizard of Oz is better because Dorothy is the real protagonist and hero of the story, so that we focus on, from the perspective of a child, opening up to this world of imagination. And the truth is, she can go home anytime she wants. She didn't know that, though, right? She never knew that. Yeah. So anyway, that's my stance on the Wizard of Oz. And not enough film critics say that the Wizard of Oz is the greatest film of all time. Another argument in favor of it is that before home video, the Wizard of Oz was like pretty much one of the only movies that was shown every year on TV.
Yes.
So
the Wizard of Oz, The Sound of Music, so those were.
And so it's influenced millions of people. Yeah. A criticism I did receive from a USC student once when I was saying this was that who was Indian was they were like, I don't get the Wizard of Oz. I don't understand Kansas or whatever. I don't, that's a very American perspective. But my perspective was, I've never been to Kansas either. Kansas is just standing in for reality, and the world of storytelling and filmmaking and everything is Oz. So like what cinema actually is, what art in general actually is, can be this. They also made the Wizard of Oz in 1939, height of the Great Depression, eve of the Second World War. It was a real like put all of our money into this to make something to like inspire people to feel good and all of that. And there are tons of like terrible stories about the production and I think her name is Margaret Hamilton, who played the witch. She caught on fire at one point. She got burned down her back. The original guy they hired to play the Tin Man, he got he got like the metal in his lungs and
the gold,
He had to drop out of the actual guy you see as the Tin Man is not the one who had the issue with the lungs, because they did that on him. He had the problem, and then they're like, oh, we fixed it for the next guy. So like the guy who got the stuff in his lungs doesn't even appear in the film. So he
ended up being on the Beverly Hillbillies as Jed. So
he wound up having a nice career in the long run. But it's just like the way that we suffer for the art, and like some of the things that there should be more protections for people and all of that. But it was 1939, so it's like we hope that things have gotten better since then. Point is, I think of it as being the greatest film of all time. There's also, for the LGBTQ community, how important the narratives of that have been, the metaphors and all of that. And so when I see all these lists of like greatest films of all time, and they don't even include The Wizard of Oz, I'm just thinking like these directors are trying to be too artsy or whatever with their thing, but the truth is that this is the most influential movie ever. My personal opinion. That was my case there. If I won you over.
No, you didn't have to win me over because I was already there.
There you go.
One thing I wanted to say before I turn it back over to Michael is thank you so much for taking some of your time to, come and chat with us and share some of your theories and talk a little bit about verticals and some of your other stuff. So it was very enjoyable.
Okay. My pleasure.
I have one question in the chat room that I've been told I have to post.
Okay.
Ask him about Miriam.
Oh. Miriam is my little sister. She's 7 years old, and she is very precious and precocious and very, very performative and entertaining herself. And I took her trick-or-treating as I was Beetlejuice and she was Wednesday Addams. And then after, she actually hadn't seen Beetlejuice. We watched Beetlejuice after. Although at age 7, it's pretty, Beetlejuice is a little scary.
It's a little scary for 7.
Scary.
Yeah.
But, you know, she definitely loves all of this extra performative elements and such. And she's got an amazing imagination herself. And I love her.
And this is directly from Miriam. This little.
Oh.
Miriam says you were amazing. I love you, and all that. So.
Love you too, Miriam. Thank you. That's very nice. That was a great way to end this. Thank you.
Yeah. And everyone, thank you all for coming. If you came in the middle, start it over again. It's going to be still at the same link. So we will talk to you again later. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.